I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. Anderson, please call the roll.
Sir. Mr. Buxa.
Here.
Mr. Hemingway.
Here.
Ms. Mayer. Mr. Rappin.
Here.
Mr. Speck. Appears absent.
We have 3 members, which is a quorum, so this is official meeting. The next is approval of minutes, our July 11th, 2023 minutes. What is the pleasure of the board?
President, I make a motion to accept the minutes from July 11th.
It's been a motion by Mr. Hemingway to approve as presented. Is there support?
I'll second.
By Mr. Rappin. Any question on the motion? Hearing or seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passed by voice vote. And I would be remiss, we do have a number of guests in the back, I believe, high school government students. So welcome everybody. Glad you're able to be here tonight. Hope you're able to learn something. Number 5, election of officer, executive secretary for the board. Mr. Anderson, would you care to introduce this matter?
I would. Thank you very much. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our new planning director, Mr. Sergio Ferrer Mendoza. At long last, we have a full-time position here, and you will be well served by Mr. Mendoza. It would be our pleasure to offer you the opportunity to appoint him as recording secretary of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Is there a motion to do so?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
There's been a motion by Mr. Rappin to appoint Mr. Mendoza as recording secretary of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Is there support for that motion?
Second.
By Mr. Hemingway.
Oh, right when I walked up here, sorry.
Magnet.
We have a motion and a second.
So there's a motion on the floor to appoint Mr. Mendoza as the recording secretary. Is there any question on the motion? Mr. Anderson, please call the roll.
Mr. Speck.
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway.
Yes.
Mr. Rappin.
Yes.
Chairman Buxa.
Yes, the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Mendoza. And let the minutes reflect that Mr. Speck has joined the meeting and is now officially present.
Sorry, I'm late.
All good, thank you. Okay, preliminary hearings. We have a number this evening and we'll move through them. BZA 23-003, Sundarya and Srikant Ravichandran requesting a variance to construct a garage. Are petitioners here?
Yes, this is Randall Parr. I represent the Robindrans, and they should be on here. I see they're they may not have turned on their video yet, but if Robindrans, if you are in fact on, you should turn on your video and your audio.
Okay,
And
we're here.
We will.
Our on-call planner, Rachel Christensen, is still on the call as well for this meeting and possibly next month.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, did you want to give any background on this before we ask petitioners? Okay, petitioners, do you have anything you want to comment?
well, to the members of the board, thank you again for the opportunity to present our variance petition. You may recall at the hearing a number of months ago, we had an extensive presentation on the variance petition, and we went through the various points of the code and the statute having to do with why we wanted the variance. And there were some questions that had been raised by members of the board. And one of the questions had to do with the interaction of the Robindrans with the homeowners association, and what would be the position of the homeowners association with regard to this project. And I'm want to report that the Robindrons have made numerous attempts, in fact, have communicated directly with the two members of the Architectural Control Committee of the Neighborhood Association with regard to covenant compliance. And indeed the Robindrons have presented to the Architectural Control Committee the full specs and project plans for their structure. And we were expecting some form of written acceptance or denial or something. But in the intervening time, since our last hearing, the Homeowners Association, through their review board, has not provided a written response of any kind. And so one way to interpret that is that there is not an objection. But we do want to inform the board that we were addressing their concern about conformity of this proposed structure to the covenants and to the various standards that would have been applicable to this. And Robindrons believe that the lack of a definitive ruling, I guess, by the Homeowners Association in opposition to this, since that has not happened, that by their silence on that definitive ruling, that that should be interpreted favorably to the Robindrons. Now, there was also a concern by the board that the materials used or to be used as indicated in the specifications that had been submitted to the town may not be in harmony with either Robindron's house or with the neighborhood and subdivision generally. And the board may wish to look at some of the pictures in the file of that were part of the specifications of the from the contractor who was to erect this, and note that the material, while it is steel, it is factory painted steel, the same color as their house, which has vinyl siding on the majority of the outside of the house. And also the house has a dark roof, which this proposed structure also has. And so in terms of the color scheme, it's a pretty good fit. One other point that the board had mentioned was, what would perhaps some of the neighbors think about this whole thing. And of course, we hope that this board will refer this matter to the public hearing as the staff report has recommended. But there are some pictures that we had supplied to the board some time ago, showing that in the interim, they'd be toward the end. So there's that picture there is of Robindron's house, and where that white car sits is where the structure would basically be. But toward the end of this, since the last hearing, the Robindrons have erected a privacy fence, and it is a white privacy fence, and it's of the height allowed by code. And what that effectively does is for all of the viewing of the property from the sides, that the only part of this structure that would be visible to neighbors, especially the closest neighbor to the side, which that picture you just passed shows the right there would be the closest neighbor. The only part of this structure that they would see would be the upper half or maybe 40% or so, which incidentally would be the same view as what would be if this were in fact an actual carport. And so the view of this structure from the neighbors would be the same view essentially as what they would see as if this were in fact a carport. And so the Robindrons wanted to do what they could to help ameliorate any concerns that the board may have about disharmony with the neighborhood, architectural schemes and colors. And I believe they've accomplished that. And farther along in the pictures here, you'll see that there are some pictures that they took of the privacy fence and of their house. And so we believe that they have had a considerable measure taken to help make this conform. So not only is the color matching of the house, but also the actual visible part of the structure to the neighbors. And so we appreciate what the Robindrons have done in that regard to help with any concerns that neighbors might have, which we would hope that they would now not have. But we also understand that we are asking for a variance of the use of this structure. That is at the request and to some extent insistence really of the matter that was pending before this, where we would first seek a variance of some sort. And so this in fact was filed. This variance was filed, and though the primary use of this structure, according to what the Robindrons have represented, would be just general storage, at some point they also determined that they would want to consider and probably would store a car or two in this, which according to some interpretations would make this a garage, but frankly, in other considerations, it would not be a garage because there is no plan to install within this structure all the different things that sometimes, well, that technically a garage is supposed to have, and so, which is why they continue to call it essentially an accessory structure rather than a garage, since it would just be a bare structure on the inside of it. But recognizing that the storage of cars would probably be involved, the staff report indicates that the Robindrons are requesting a total of storage space for 5 vehicles on the property, and we understand that is somewhat of a stretch, even as close as the Robindrons are to the 4-car threshold, which is approved for a square footage house, which is only a couple of hundred or so square feet larger than the Robindrons. So the variance would actually be to permit an additional space. And we had mentioned at the last time we actually met with the board that a 5th car storage space would be great, but we understand that that's a stretch, and that a 4-car permit with that is 1 plus the existing 3 that are part of the attached garage presently existing would be more feasible to the board. It is interesting to note that in their neighborhood there is a house that has a detached garage, and from the appearances of the detached garages, it appears to be a 3-car detached garage, if my information is correct. The house itself is a larger house. It's this other house is like 5,900 square feet, which is just a little over 1,000 feet more than the Robindron property, but somehow they managed to have a detached structure with what appears to be access for 3 cars on that. That's at 1130 Melbrook Drive there, within Munster and within the purview of the town code. So we're not using that in any way other than to show that there might be some precedent and that this.
Mr. Carr,
Yes,
probably
sir.
at this point.
Of course.
Are there any questions from the board? Mr. Reppin.
I have a question. So your clients want to put in a metal looking barn on their house, basically, a metal structure.
That's correct.
Industrial in nature, not residential in nature. Correct? Knowing that they bought into a subdivision that says on page 12 that non-masonry siding shall be horizontal cedar or redwood and vertical cedar or fir plywood siding.
Well,
so they bought in there knowing that they had covenants in the subdivision, and your statement that silence is golden is the key for approval on this?
well, we have 2 governing bodies here, really. One is the neighborhood association, and the other is, of course, the town. And with regard to the neighborhood association, there has not been a written rejection of the project. We are aware of the siding considerations, and I know that the board has some concerns there. What the Robindrons are interested in doing is coming to a resolution on those things, and they would be willing, as part of their petition and as part of the conditions, in as much as their house has a considerable percentage of vinyl siding on it, they would be willing, as a condition to approval of the variance, to in fact install similar vinyl siding on the sides of this proposed structure. Therefore, it would have the appearance that their house does, their house that is almost 5,000 square feet. And so that is a consideration to help with.
Are you sure it's a vinyl siding?
Pardon me?
Are you sure it's a vinyl siding? Because in your covenants, it says vinyl or aluminum material may be used for soffit and fascia, which is not the siding material that's mentioned in the ACC covenants in here. So I'd like to see the material that you're talking about, if it is a hardy board or if it's really a vinyl siding.
Well, I guess I should defer to the Robindrons. I was under the impression it was vinyl, but perhaps it's Robindrons. Do you have any further information on that?
We're pretty sure it is vinyl, but if we can make sure. That's what we have been told, that it is vinyl siding.
Okay, let me ask you this: whatever kind of siding it is, would
We
you
will
be willing?
conform to it.
We can,
Yeah,
we
whatever
can,
whatever siding it is, we'll conform to it.
we can match it.
Okay, are there any other questions from the board? Here, seeing none, what is the pleasure of the board?
My opinion is I like to see some more due diligence in trying to find out from the homeowner association what their covenants and controls are. I mean, I sit on the homeowner association board, and the first thing I would do is if I was your neighbor, I'd go back to my covenants and I'd take you to court over it because you're not following what I bought into it as a neighbor. That's why I moved into my neighborhood in Cobblestones, because we had controls and things that were done to match the neighborhood architectural controls and committee laws in there, because we wanted a standard of protection. We're not putting in siding buildings with metal siding. So I don't know how you're not getting a hold of your association, but obviously you have one that's filed in Lake County and recorded.
Well,
I-
and
I
just to
understand.
reiterate for the record, the Robindrons represent that they have made somewhere very close to 10 contacts with the Architectural Control Committee and have in fact provided them with all the specs and everything else, and specifically have requested an approval or disapproval in writing as provided by the covenants, and have not received
What
that.
form has that communication been? Has it been, certified mail?
Well, the delivery of the project specs, if I recall, was that certified, Sandra?
Yes, so I sent all the project information by certified mail, and then I had a member come to my house and I handed it to him personally as well.
Okay, and in addition to the just the transfer of the written information, you have also personally spoken and have spoken on the telephone to one or both of these two persons at different times. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so this is not something where one quick effort was made and then we're assuming that there's that constitutes a sufficient action and an insufficient response by the Architectural Control Committee. It seems to me that my clients have exercised some pretty good diligence here in trying to get an official response from the committee, and that has not been forthcoming. What interpretation to put on that? It seems to me it would be
From the board to set this for public hearing.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I'm, asking the board if there is a motion.
So when I'm looking at this, right now you have it drawn as two cars. You mentioned before that you would go down to a one car addition, correct? You have three garage spaces right now. You would ideally like two more, but you would go down to one car. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So this size of this garage would drop in half. Instead of 26 by 25, you would be,
Well, what
just because you put one door on it or two, it's the size of this, it's the size of the garage.
I would like to point out that the
well they would be
Munster-
willing to.
that the Munster zoning code only allows for a 3-car garage for a house that is less than 5,000 square feet. And the subject property, the house is only 47 square feet. So according to the Munster code, having 2 or 1 garages, 2 or more, let's see, trying to find my words, having a 2-car garage added to the 3-car garages that they already have it's not permitted.
Either way, it's a variance, right?
Correct.
Yes. What I'm saying is if we don't want a house that has such huge garage spaces, that's why we have these codes. If you shrunk it down, went to a less sized garage, you're asking for 1 space instead of 2, right?
Mr. Wicklund,
Yes,
what is the consequence of failing to, grant a public hearing, if any?
my understanding, is that the staff recommended, petition be set for public hearing October 10th, that is the next regular meeting.
So in other words, it's a ministerial act by this board.
Right.
Okay. I'll come back to the board one more time. Is there a motion to set this for public hearing?
I mean, I think I don't think it's gonna get approved, but I'll make a motion to send it to public hearing on October 10th.
I'll second.
All right, there's been a motion by Mr. Speck and a second by Mr. Rappin. Does the board wish to have any, contingencies to this motion? In other words, do we want to see materials? Do we want to see anything else? Do we want to see the certified mail in addition to the petitioner complying with all notice requirements?
I'm not gonna put any requirements on it, but I would tell you, if I wouldn't start construction on this until you got the HOA approval, because start building it, and then they sue you, then you spent money that you're gonna end up having to tear it down, because there's no way the HOA is gonna approve it.
Thank you, Mr. Speck. Well, no,
I agree.
okay, there's a motion on the floor to set this for a public hearing for our October meeting. Is there any question on the motion? Hearing or seeing none, Mr. Anderson, please.
Daniel Bosa,
Yes.
Brad Hemingway,
Yes.
Roland Raffin.
Yes.
And Brian Speck.
Yes.
The motion carries. Mr. Farr, please let your clients know to comply with all the town's notice requirements.
I will, Your Honor. Thank you very much. We appreciate the board's consideration.
Thank you. And Mr. Mendoza, if you wouldn't mind going forward, have all roll calls, have the chair last. Okay, thank you.
May
Okay,
I
next
ask?
on the agenda, we have BZA 23007 and related 23008, Paul Taylor. Mr. Anderson, any comments from the town other than what was in the staff reports?
Ms. Christensen, your pleasure.
These two are very similar applications. It's a property that, was built prior to our current zoning code. What we've done was the way that we've worded the petition is that our current sign ordinance would then apply to the structure so that each building or each entrance to a business would be able to have a wall sign. Currently, our ordinance only allows the front of the building that faces Ridge Road to have signage, but just the way that this was constructed, it is challenging for this structure to have appropriate signage for the businesses that are located inside of it.
Thank you, Ms. Christensen.
Mhm.
Mr. Taylor, Dr. Taylor? Paul Taylor's fine. Paul, go ahead and state your name and address for the record, please, and sign in.
Sure, Paul Taylor, the address is 70404 Forest Avenue in Hammond. So as Ms. Christensen said, basically, we're looking to get signage for each of the tenant units in these two buildings. The way the code is written, we're only allowed basically to have 3 code compliant signs. There's in 11 to 15 Ridge Road or 11 Ridge Road, that's got 2 tenant units. The other building there, which is designated, I believe, is 15 through 21, the addresses. That's got 5 tenant units and we would only have 1 code compliant sign there. So again, we're asking for tenant unit signs for each of those units.
Great, thank you very much. Questions from the board?
Taylor, would all those signs put up would meet our standards of design and material?
Yes, the new signs would be code compliant with the ones that would match the ones that are code compliant.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board? Hearing or seeing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to set this for public hearing.
Okay, so we'll do these two separately. So this is 007. There is a motion by Mr. Raffin to set for a public hearing. Is there support for that motion?
Second.
By Mr. Speck.
Mr. Hemingway.
All right. Any question on the motion? Here seeing none on 007, Mr. Mendoza, please.
Brian Speck,
Yes.
Roland Raffin.
Yeah.
Brad Hemingway,
Yes.
and Daniel Bosa.
Yes, the motion carries. And then for petition 008.
And then Bucks, I'd like to make the motion for public meeting for that. 008.
There's been a motion by Mr. Hemingway. Is there support for the motion?
Second.
By Mr. Speck. Any question on the motion? Hearing or seeing none, Mr. Mendoza, please.
Brian Speck,
Yes.
Roland Raffin,
Yes.
and Brian Hemingway,
Yes.
Daniel Bosa.
Yes, motion carries. Mr. Taylor, you have your public hearing for both the 007 and 008. Please work with the town to ensure all notices complied with and all the other requirements. We'll do next month.
Thank you for your time.
You are most welcome. Okay, BZA 23-009, Family Dental Care. Do we have representatives? Hello,
Hi, how are you?
before you start, Mr. Anderson or Ms. Christensen?
Yes, the petitioner is requesting sign variances for two signs on the structure. They are taller than what the ordinance allows. So our maximum height of a wall sign is 48 inches, and the petitioner is requesting two signs, one with a height of 73 inches and the other one with a height of 71 inches.
Thank you. Go ahead and please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Laura Pugh. We're at 8252 Owen Avenue.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Purpose.
And do you have anything to add from the staff report?
Our argument is pretty much in the documents, which is the building came with the two triangles. So aesthetically, it makes sense to have the logo on top and the words at the bottom. And the light being emitted would be exactly the same as it is now approved.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Hearing or seeing none, is there a motion to be made?
Chairman Bucks, I'd like to make a motion for a public hearing for docket number 23-009 for October meeting.
There's been a motion to set for public hearing. Is there support for the motion?
Second.
By Mr. Rappin. Any question on the motion?
I do have one.
Yes, Mr. Speck, please.
So on the signage, where they say it's 73 or 71, 173 and 171, is that includes the family dental care and then the logo on top of it?
That's right. It
So-
goes from the very top of the toothbrush, which is the highest part of the teeth, to the bottom of the wire.
So there's a
Oh,
space
okay,
in
to the
between.
bottom.
And it includes the space in between.
Okay. And the ordinance is how much?
48.
Okay.
Further questions? Hearing or seeing none, Mr. Mendoza, please.
Mr. Speck,
Yes.
Mr. Rathman,
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway,
Yes.
and Chairman Whiteside.
Yes, the motion carries. You are set for public hearing. Please comply with all town's notice requirements and work with staff, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, moving on, BZA 23-010 Crew Car Wash. Ms. Christensen.
Yes, so this petition is for three variances. The the Munster Car Wash is looking to be transitioned into a crew car wash. The first variance that they're requesting is the location of a dumpster enclosure to be off-site. It would be located just east of the property on the adjacent site. Our zoning code requires a dumpster to be on-site. So they are working, or they have a agreement with the property owner next door to be able to share that dumpster. So that's something that will be up for consideration on if you guys will allow that or not. The next one is in regards to the landscaping. The landscaping in the front yard in the first lot layer appears to be less than 30%. This front lot layer is unique in that this was an old car wash site. It's getting converted into it's still going to be a car wash site, but just the use of it, there's a driveway, which the petitioner has reduced down with staff's request. They've worked with us. There's also an exit. So there are two driveways with this petition. They've worked to put more landscaping in around the existing sign and also landscaping around the building. So this is another variance, like I said, that they'll be requesting, is just that they're not meeting that 30% in the first lot layer per ordinance. And then the third variance that they're requesting is a sign variance. We received the information on Friday, so our staff hasn't been able to do a full review to see exactly what things are not meeting the code. But we feel comfortable enough that Crew Car Wash has been working with us really diligently and getting us information, as we request it. So we think we will have everything in shape for if this goes to public hearing on October 10th, that we will be prepared and have a full staff report for you.
Thank you, Ms. Christensen.
You're welcome.
Peter, I saw that you signed in, but please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jim Weezer. I'm an attorney with offices in 429 West Lincoln Highway in Sherrville. And I sort of tag teaming the representation of Crew Car Wash in Lake County in Northwest Indiana with Attorney John Reed, who's here this evening as well. I just real quickly, I also have Travis Smith and Catherine Rayner from Crew Car Wash in case you have any technical questions to ask, but I would agree with the recommendation or the comments that were just made. And we're here seeking these 3 variances after I know a lot of discussion and work with the staff to get it down, and we're very appreciative of that. So that's why we're here this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Weiser. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing or seeing none, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to set this for public hearing.
There's been a motion by Mr. Rappin. Is there support?
I'll second.
By Mr. Specht. Any question on the motion? Hearing or seeing none, Mr. Mendoza, please.
Mr. Hemingway,
Yes.
Mr. Speck,
Yes.
Mr. Raffin,
Yes.
Chairman Bucksko.
Yes. The motion carries. You are set for public hearing for October. Please comply with all towns and notice requirements and work with the staff. We'll see you next month.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Weiser.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our preliminary hearings, and we'll now move on to our public hearing. This is BZA docket 23-002 Munster Investment LLC for the Hyatt Place Hotel at 9420 Calumet Avenue. Our representatives there. Okay, thank you. Before you sign in though, Ms. Christensen, please.
Yes. This has been a petition that we've been working on for a couple months. I think this was part of my first meeting here with Munster. We are, let's see, can we scroll down through the staff report a little bit? So the petitioner is asking for, let's stop right there. So the petitioner has worked with staff over the last couple months to get a little bit closer to what our sign ordinance states. We are now on a version of the sign that is now a large projecting sign. And the petitioner has 2 different options that they're presenting to us tonight. The issue that staff is still seeing with this is that the petitioner is requesting that these will be located above the windowsills of the 3rd story. That is a requirement of our ordinance, is that projecting signs must be below the sill of the 3rd story. The 2 different options that have been presented, if you could scroll down to the next page, please. The first option, this is a smaller sign. I would say that this one is difficult to read. It doesn't look proportional to the structure itself. I believe that the petitioner was trying to show that on this sign, I think this should have been illustrated with the sign being underneath the windowsill of the 3rd floor. However, it's underneath the window of the 3rd window that's being shown there. I don't think the 1st floor, the darker gray, was taken into consideration as the 1st floor. So this sign, if it was underneath the windowsill of the 3rd floor, this would be fully in compliance with our ordinance. However, now if you go down to just that second drawing that's on this same page, you can see there is a larger blade sign that has been illustrated. It is being shown above the 4th floor window, where it's starting to be hung. This one is more in proportion to the building with the scale of it. However, if this sign was located underneath the 3rd story windowsill, it would not reach the max or the minimum height that is required between the ground level and then the bottom of the sign. So I think the petitioner was wanting to show the 2 different versions to show that, you know, the first one is very small. We think it would be very difficult to read. And then the second one is a larger sign that is more easily, it would be more legible. However, it would need to be located above that the 4th floor window.
Thank you, Ms. Christensen.
You're welcome.
Commissioner, do you want to state your name and address for the record?
Amit Shaw, 9420 Calumet.
Thank you. Okay, do you have this is going to be a public hearing. I'm going to open up to the public in a minute, but before I do that, is there anything that you wish to add to the staff report?
No, I mean, she explained everything correctly.
Great.
been like 4 or 5 months now. that we've been working on this, but I think we condensed the various requests to one location on the side.
Great, thank you. If you wouldn't mind having a seat for a minute? Thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing, and I will ask the members of the public if anyone wishes to address this petition, the Hyatt Place Hotel. Does anyone in the public wish to address? Going twice, does anyone in the public want to address this? Does anyone in the public want to address this? Mr. Anderson, is there anybody on Zoom? Do we know that may want to address?
I don't see any hands.
Okay, I will then close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Mr. Shock, please come back to the podium. Members of the board, what questions do we have for this petition?
Mr. Chairman, I think your sign that goes above that third window, that 18-foot, is better proportioned with the building. Even though it's above the window, I think that parapet wall is so tall, I think it blends in nicely.
Are you talking about
The taller
Mr.
one,
Raffner, are you talking about figure 3 on page 4?
yes, figure 3 on page 4. Yes.
I would concur.
I do want to be clear that there are actually 2 signs that would be for either option. So there's one on the north side of the structure, and then there would also be one on the south side of the structure.
They would be the same sign, just on
Yes.
different sides of the structure.
Yes.
Other questions from the board? It is a motion in order then.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the second signed option, figure 3.
There's been a motion by Mr. Rappin to approve the second sign option, which is figure 3. Is there support for that motion?
I'll second the motion.
By Mr. Speck. Any question on the motion to approve sign option 2? Hearing or seeing none, Mr. Mendoza, please.
Mr. Hemingway,
Yeah.
Mr. Speck,
Yes.
Mr. Raffin,
Yes.
Chairman Brooks.
Yes. The motion carries by a vote of 4-0. Mr. Shaw, you have your variance.
Okay, thank you. I just had a quick question. So the way we propose it is the way we should do it then, right?
That is correct.
Yes.
Above the 4-4. It's fine.
Exactly as it's shown.
Yeah, figure 3.
As shown on figure 3.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Shaw, I want to thank you for working with us over
No,
the
I-
last 4 months.
I know it's been a while, but
I know it's been a while, but as a member of the commission, thank you for
no, thank you.
doing your due diligence. We look forward to having you in town.
Yep, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that is our last public hearing. Moving on, we have findings of fact, BZA 23006, School Town of Munster, various variances for Wilbur Wright Middle School. Has the board had an opportunity to review the findings?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the findings of fact of BZA docket 23-006.
There's been a motion to approve by Mr. Speck as presented. Is there support for the motion?
I'll second.
By Mr. Rappin. Any question on the motion? Hearing or seeing none, Mr. Mendoza, please.
Mr. Hemingway,
Yes.
Mr. Raffin,
Yes.
Mr. Speck,
Yes.
and Chairman Brooks.
Yes, the motion carries and the findings of fact are approved. Are there any additional items for discussion? There does not appear to be any. The next regular business meeting of the BZA will be October 10th, 2023 at 6:45 PM. I will entertain one last motion.
No motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Rappin to adjourn, support by Mr. Speck. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned at 7:29. Thank you, everyone, for your participation and time this evening. Have a great evening.
Hi, folks, I'm going to call this meeting of the Munster Planning Commission to order for Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, everybody, please set your phone to the side.
I'm sorry, I was gonna say, as I called roll, that we are experiencing, technical difficulties that we did not experience last night, and it is so loud and disruptive, it's better to talk loud without it.
Talk loud. Well, everybody, make sure your phones are on stun, and Mr. Secretary, please call roll.
Mr. Tulowitzki,
Present.
Mr. Specht,
Present.
Mr. Rappin,
Here.
Ms. Mellon,
Present.
Dr. Kulturitis, appears absent, Ms. Brannigan,
Present.
Chairman Baker.
Present, we have a quorum. Next up is approval of minutes from August 8th, 2023. Any changes, modifications, motions, what say you? Hello,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
there's a motion and a second, any discussion? Either or none, Mr. Wickman, I understand we still have to do roll call vote for the state of Indiana.
Correct.
Roll call vote, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Brannigan,
Yes.
Ms. Mellon,
Yes.
Mr. Specht,
Yes.
Mr. Rappin,
Yes.
Mr. Tulowitzki,
Yes.
Mr. Baker.
Yes. Moving right along, election of officer for executive secretary.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Sergio Mendoza as executive secretary.
There's a motion for Mr. Mendoza. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
And a second. Anybody else? Mr. Anderson, your name's not in there.
I'm afraid not, sir.
All right.
I serve at the pleasure of the board anytime you want me.
Mr. Mendoza, welcome as a new, what's your official title?
Planning director.
And as a planning director for the town of Munster, one of your duties, I guess, is to be the executive secretary, huh? Congratulations on that one. There's a motion and a second, no discussion, I guess it's still Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Specht,
Yes.
Mr. Rappin,
Yes.
Ms. Brannigan,
Yes.
Ms. Mellon,
Yes.
Mr. Tulowitzki.
Yes.
Mr. Baker.
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Mendoza, congratulations. Going to you from now on. Preliminary hearings. Next, first up, PC 23-01, Matt Kimmel, Centennial Village LLC is requesting approval of an amendment to Centennial Village Plan Unit Development, revisions to the CV design standards and site plan to include revision to the site location and shape of buildings N and O. Hopefully, Mr. Mendoza, you'll make those a little easier. Who's up to speak on that one? Is it,
It's still me.
Rachel?
You guys got me just for
Okay,
one more
Rachel.
meeting.
All right, Rachel. You can drive
right.
up for one, huh?
We talked about it. My daughter had a volleyball game, so I was able to go to that. So I appreciate being able to do Zoom tonight. Okay, so we do have a preliminary hearing for this. You can see on the drawing that is on your screen right now, this is what the existing site plan looks like for the plan unit development. Building N is the larger one, O is the smaller one. Now on this second page, you can see where it's outlined in yellow. That is what is being proposed with this PUD amendment. So building M would be a little bit smaller. Building O is kind of that backward C shape building. What has been submitted so far, we know that building O would be a hotel. We have asked that the petitioner submit a red line version of the design standards to show exactly what the changes are going to be with the design standards. I know we will be getting that within the next month before this goes to a public hearing. If you guys choose to have this go to a public hearing in October, we worked really well with the petitioner on the last PUD amendment, and they were able to provide all the things that we asked them for. So I think we just need a little bit more time to get those red line versions from the petitioner. So my staff report does look a little bit incomplete on this. It does have the information that we know at this time. You know, it shows the existing land uses, what the buildings were, what are supposed to be currently. And like I said, we just know that the building O is set to be a hotel. If the petitioner would like to speak more on his plans for this, that would be great if he could do that now.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Christensen. Just let record show that Dr. Kulturitis has arrived. Is there somebody to speak on this? I recognize this gentleman. Yes, sir. Would you please introduce yourself for the record?
Matt Kimmel, 631 Carney Drive, Bangor, yeah. From Centennial Village, Jones. Well, this change to the PUD is, as Kristen said, is a change of one building structure back by the lake at the end of Village Parkway is now being separated into two buildings, N and O. O is the 5-story, boutique, full-service hotel, about 144 rooms is the plan, and, so that is the most significant change to the PUD standards. There's also, we sent over the changes, but they weren't redlined, so both staff have that. There was submitted renderings of the hotel. It's a European type look, carrying over the very consistent images and architecture for the first floor of Centennial Village, which is all the cast stone with the up and down light columns. And you can see the image of an internal courtyard, what we think will be the most desirable hotel in Lake County, Indiana. The other aspect to the changes to the PUD that we're requesting have to do with height of building changes, of course, because this will be the only 5-story building plan currently in Centennial Village. Also, there are some very slight modifications as to the definition of some of the classes of uses of material on the exterior walls. One change was more accurately defining what is an exterior wall, defining what the parapet is. So it was very unclear in the original version as to how you do a calculation as the percentage of an exterior wall or exterior wall material. And then secondly, slight modification of the use of materials on the exterior wall. Class goes from, I think, 70% to 75%, and 25% to from 30% down to 25%. And so we'll provide that to staff in the next red line version so they can see that specifically. So those are the primary changes we're requesting for the PUD. As you know, we went before the commission a couple months ago, some prior changes to the PUD. So this is the second set of changes.
Is that it? Okay, any questions for staff or the petitioner? This is a preliminary hearing. Come on, and no one?
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman and Mr. Kimmel, I see it says Tapestry Hotel on the front. I'm just curious if you can share what stage of kind of negotiations you are with that hotelier.
Yeah, great question. Tapestry is one of the brand lines of Hilton Hotel. So it's specifically designed for lifestyle centers and settings like we have at Centennial Village. Hilton has been out to see the site 3 times. They're a U.S. leader of the Tapestry brand, has also visited the site. And so they believe that this is an ideal setting for this type of hotel.
Okay. Significant interest, I hear in that. Thank you.
No deal yet. Yes, sir.
Matt, what do you envision the materials to be on this building? Since we don't have a red line, I mean, is this a glamorous rendering with brick on the first floor and the second, third, and fourth floor all EPIS system, or is it the same kind of design standards that we implemented throughout the rest of?
Well, yeah. So as you know, for the current standards, we could build a hotel on the current standards. Would mean that we'll just make the windows slightly bigger than the image by a few percentage points. We think the windows are precisely the way they should be. And so it is cast stone on the first level and partially to the lower edge of the bottom second story windows. So it's up into the second floor is the cast stone. And beyond that is synthetic, actually stone. So I have samples of that. You really can't tell the difference between the actual cast stone. And the reason being is that the structural engineers have been saying that the load, part of the site is fill, and the load would be significant, really rendering that feasible to do the entire building by stone.
Who's your engineer?
PPG.
PPG is
Not so structural.
You're civil.
Hopefully it's not.
I have a question, Mr. Kimball. So if this deal for this particular hotel doesn't happen, is it gonna be the same footprint or it'll be a different footprint?
I'm not sure I understand your question, so.
Or let me try it another way. What square footage was originally in N and O, and between the two buildings, has that square footage changed?
Yes, it has, it's increased.
By how much?
Originally, in was 42,000 square feet. And O is a building that's essentially been moved to what we call M, which is the rooftop Windy City Social that's under construction at the moment. So we have O would currently be 98,000 square feet as currently conceptually planned.
So 98 for O and 42 for N.
That was the previous size. I would need to go back.
So that was originally 150,000 and it went up. So then we're splitting the big building in the original PUD approval to two smaller buildings, of which N is going to be.
And it's still gonna be a two-story building. I don't have the rendering.
The rendering was 4. 1, 2, 3. Public school math, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's the new one.
Right?
Original, I was saying is 2 square.
So we're vertical too. Okay, thank you. We don't know if we could help with that, that'd be great as far as what we're proposing for the second building being N it doesn't have any renderings, correct?
No, it does not have any numbers. It's not proposed at the moment. Also, the red line outline on this particular plan shows the proposed TIF redevelopment district as well for this building.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So this is gonna get a repurposed tip for this project in this area here?
Yeah, we're clearly adding significantly more AB because of the fact that the site is a bit larger now than it was initially, simply because of the reshaping of Clay Bowl Lake. So a development agreement has been submitted or is in the process of being submitted to the town attorney today. I thought they had it, but Dustin has not submitted yet, so that's in draft form. And that's part of the proposal.
So Ms. Christensen, have you, according to your notes here, the staff hasn't had a chance to review some of the required documentation. Is that how I'm interpreting this?
No, the petitioner submitted a document that had changes in it, but it wasn't redlined. So we weren't, the standards, it's a large document, and for us to be able to go and compare the current plant or the current standards with the revised version without it being redlined, that would take a lot of effort. That if we could just get the red line, it would be a lot easier for us to be able to compare and catch all of the edits that the petitioner is making to the document.
Yeah, I have a red line version, but I apologize for that. I thought that one has been sent to everybody. It's really the three changes in what I walked through. It's this site plan, it's the height of elevation, and it's the slight change in definition of exterior walls, and then also the lastly the allocation for materials on floors 2 through 5.
And an increase in square footage.
Yeah.
Are you considering that as a part of your height requirement?
Yeah, the square footage and the height building size.
All right. So we're basically doing what we did on the north side and creating 2 lots again in what was looked at as one.
You can look at it that way, sure.
And Mr. Kimley, on the screen right now, the red outline is the proposed new TIF district, is that correct?
Yeah, part of the red line is overlaid by the yellow line, but that is the proposed,
Essentially the hotel and some parking.
yeah, it's got adequate parking for the hotel and, finishes part of the eastern part of Village Parkway. Really, what this is accomplishing, is being able to get, people back towards the lake, right? So once we complete where the, Windy City Social is going, building in, the road drive going back to the east, you'll be able to take that road to the south, which is the part of the TIF district, all the way back around to North Centennial Drive by the existing hotel. Again, pushing activity back towards the lake, nearer to the trail. Again, just giving them a bit of that. And part of the development agreement includes the re-characterization of Playable Lake as part of the TIF proceeds.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Matt, you and I had multiple conversations about does Munster's population justify another hotel? We've spoken multiple times about that. This is a different hotel, which brings a different level of excitement than just the regular standard ones that we have in town. My question is this is gonna be a full service hotel. Is there guarantees that the town has in the future to make sure that Tapestry keeps this a full service hotel open to the public that go on the roof deck and use the amenities that are there? Otherwise it just becomes to me another hotel in town, you know?
Yeah, it's a great question, observation. All it is that we've had a feasibility study done. There is, simply because there is not a full service hotel in this market. We believe, as many of you know, and me included, I have never stayed in one of these limited select service hotels in the town of Westwood. Most of our residents here have not, but we really view that this is going to be pattern after some other hotels that have been award-winning hotels, like the Harpeth in Franklin, Tennessee, that is really viewed as the sort of the front room, the living room of the community. So it could be places where we'll have meeting space, we'll have upscale cocktail lounge on the 5th floor. People can go to actually have wedding venues, as you know, with the clubhouse closing at the Centennial Park. This is picking up some of that meeting space demand. So it's a unique opportunity and a significant investment on my part that we think can work here in Munster. When you look at the exterior architecture, it's, I believe, stunning, it's European, it's unique. It's so much so I think it sets itself apart from the other hotels.
So I would encourage staff and Mr. Wickland, whatever agreement we have, is making sure this stays in the future as a full service hotel with that kind of amenity on the 5th floor for residents to be able to use.
Our attention.
I just have a few.
Yes,
comments.
ma'am.
I have stayed at a Tapestry Hotel in Elkhart, and I agree with what you're saying, that it does kind of become a destination. It's Elkhart, it's downtown, it's, sorry if there's anyone from Elkhart, but it's not that exciting. But the hotel was beautifully done. It was a renovated, multi-story building. And I think it really did a lot to revitalize their downtown street. So I like the brand. I do agree it's a beautiful building. I think the proportions of the windows are perfect. And as Roland pointed out, I think as long as you stick with the materials that you have talked about with the stone, I think it's great. It'd be a great addition to our town.
Yeah, thank you. I will add too that there's a architect by the name of Stephen Perkins that's involved with the project. He was the architect on the Harpeth in Franklin, Tennessee, and won the ULI award of the hospitality of the boutique hotel of the year a few years ago. And so he's directly involved in design. My son and I actually designed the exterior, and he is consulting on that and then also very involved in the finishes on the interior, the lighting, the layout of the time space. Pretty excited about it.
Well, your son is good style. I've seen his guy.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
It's a family affair.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Kimmel, is there parking underground for this particular, deal?
No, there is not.
No parking underground. 144 rooms?
Yes.
Everybody's walking there?
Yeah, like they do every other hotel.
Okay. All right, and then as far as helping with the square footage of the other building as well, if it's increasing the total square footage from 150,000 more, and also how that's going to impact the parking and what's happening there as well, that would be helpful for the next round. Preliminary hearing, folks. Big docket, what's up?
Just make a characteristic statement, how Chairman Baker asked us always to put our phones on stun. I heard you put the hotel on stun with this stunning architecture.
Oh, man.
I will make one comment. I agree that the design and the renderings are beautiful. I think it's wonderful. I still would like to see some more activity on the residential buildings.
Right, that's not the first time you mentioned that. We're getting close to selling the rest of those condos, and I like you and looking forward to doing that too. But I can tell you, every time we add another building, it just makes it easier to sell condominiums, and we've got some pretty exciting things coming that I think are just gonna continue to.
I wanted to be consistent with my comment.
I do just have one more comment that I forgot. So building N at this point almost looks, I mean, it's certainly not a mirror, but I know we're not talking about that today, but maybe in the future, it seems like building N should speak to building O as far as its materials and its character. It gets right across from that nice little rounded parking lot, you know, it seems like maybe they can be brother and sister.
Yeah, I agree. We haven't sort of decided what that building's gonna be quite yet, so I think that will be probably the last building built in the development, so we're still trying to figure that out. It has to economically work and be received in the market, so I think we're still working through that. My son and I we debate often, really this hotel should sit on the eastern edge of Village Parkway. As you pull down Village, you can see the buildings straight into the courtyard. We feel that's probably the better place, but we've heard feedback from the town over the years that they want to be able to see the lake down Village Parkway to do, so we bought that.
Mr. Chairman, I have a real question this time, and it's for Ms. Christensen. Thank you for preparing your recommendation. I heard you say in your comments that you're confident that the red line version would be provided by the petitioner based on previous experience. It looks to me like that was the only thing holding this, making this, a recommendation to continue. Would you modify your opinion also for Mr. Mendoza, joint question that expecting the red line version to come, that this might be appropriate to set for public hearing?
The staff recommendation that I gave was to move this to a public hearing at October 10th.
Oh, sorry, maybe I've misread the memo.
No problem.
I read it here.
And it does, I like that, so.
For land use, no. That's asking a clarifying question, consistent with the timeline that we had previously discussed. For a internal goal that Mr. Kimmel would like to achieve. There are two tracks to this project. One is the land use track, obviously, that's what we're here for. And the other is a redevelopment council track. To answer Matt's question, is this keep us on track? It keeps us on track for the land use portion. The development agreement, we can have an offline conversation. I would say that it's not really germane to this particular body. I'm more than happy to keep you updated, but from the land use perspective, this keeps you on track. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, then I would move to set for public hearing at the October 10th meeting, PC docket number 23-021. An amendment to the Centennial Village PUD to change the size, location, and shape of buildings N and O in the Centennial Village Planned Unit Development. As I mentioned, to the October 10th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if we move forward next month, and we have a public hearing, and you're looking for a favorable recommendation of town council, I think we need to make sure we work out exactly the materials you're looking for, the standards, so we have an idea. When you have any kind of samples or that kind of stuff, because if we're looking to change the aesthetics in this document, we'd like to see what materials you propose.
Additional square footage of the other building, the parking, also.
Well, I know all that stuff.
Right. Just saying it through the program.
So, what would you expect me to do? Bring in sample materials or would you like?
What you're looking at, to change it to, because you're asking us to make a change in this draft of the materials you're using that are different from the material standards that we're using on the rest of the building, correct?
No, I'm just actually asking for a slight change in the percentage of the wall area. Right, so the materials are exactly the same, it's part of the standard. It's what we use on building G, we use on all the other buildings. So it's simply just moving slightly larger percentage from, like I said, from 70 to 75% on the exterior wall of this material, keeping the windows as designed in the window.
But these are different materials than the brick on the facade and a lot of the other buildings.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So how is it only 75%?
No, if you look at building G, there's a significant amount of exterior wall finishes that are not brick.
The G is the, just to clarify.
The
that's the
video
condominium.
building is the multi-story, four-story condominium building, which there are brick columns or pilasters that go to the cornice or to the parapet wall, but the majority of the exterior wall is not brick. So that's what.
And to clarify, you're saying that shift from 70 to 75% is to maintain the windows in the appropriate, in the current window proportions.
Yeah.
As rendered.
And we can meet the standard as is, we just have to make the windows like 6 inches larger, 8 inches tall, which I think makes it a little bit unusually shaped for just the purpose of trying to meet a standard that was never really set for architecture.
But once you start talking re-thick and re-money, there's a whole different standard on the table, man. Let's make sure it looks good. Right?
If you want to hold oil like this.
I want to make,
that's
let's make the picture, it looks really nice, So bring the samples of that. If it's a good material, I'd be happy to sign off on it.
Okay. All right, fair enough. We may have an additional conversation about it.
Sure, yeah.
We're very interested.
Yeah, if it's a, like I said, it's a good brick looking material, it may not be full bad. Take a look at it.
I would be interested in being part of that
Sure,
conversation as well.
yeah.
Okay.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second, be there or none. Mr. Mendoza.
Mr. Speck,
Yes.
Mr. Rafflin,
Yes.
Councilor Mellon,
Yes.
Dr. Colter-Writers.
Yes.
Ms. Brennigan.
Yes.
And Councilor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
and President Baker.
Yes. All right, we'll see you next week and we'll see you right again as we move to public hearings in PC 23-022, Matt Kimmel, Centennial Village LLC requesting approval of a development plan of Lot 8, Building I of Centennial Village PUD. Is this Ms. Christensen?
Yes, that's me again. So like you said, this is for Building I in Centennial Village. It's a development plan review. If you scroll down to the 4th page, this is my analysis on it. The only thing that I found in reviewing it is that the landscaping plan was not specifying plants that were listed in the PUD standards. However, Nicole did some research and we found that there's other development plans that have been done for Centennial Village, and they approved, you guys did approve these plants as part of those development plan approval process. So unless you guys have a big hiccup or hang up with the plants that were specified, they seem to be consistent with what is being planted on site already. So I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that so that if there was an issue, we could talk about it. The other thing that is required per the PUD standards, it states that the individual site development plans for all buildings will include a detailed design of the site amenities. I don't believe that those were submitted with the plan, not on a site plan. They were included in the renderings for the site itself or the structure. Again, I don't think this is a huge deal, but if the plan commission, you guys would like to have something like that, I did prepare a motion that if you do want to include those things, you certainly can do that. However, overall, everything lines up with what the standards show. I don't think I have any other concerns beyond those two items, which I don't think are huge concerns anyway. So yeah, if you want to flip down and show the images that have been provided. Like I said, the materials are in line with what is in the PUD document. And unless you guys have any questions, that's all I have for you. So back to you, Mr. Baker.
I have a question, Ms. Christensen. So what we did last month versus what we're looking at now. So last month was splitting it into lots. Now we're doing the development plan for the individual lot.
Yes.
There's cross access between this and lot 9.
Yes.
So when they sell
So that
there's not an issue for a lot 9 being able to get there, or lot 8, any issues from that standpoint?
no, and
Sandbox?
the other thing that's on your agenda to approve tonight is the final plat for those two lots. And we did review it, and the cross access agreement is in there for the parking. So there shouldn't be any reason that that wouldn't be approved.
The landscaping concerns that you have, were those interior, were those along 45th?
All of the above. Because and it's just the planting materials. I believe that the plantings themselves are appropriate in terms of locations and spacing. However, it's just the plants, the actual specification list, the plant list that's listed below are not in the PUD ordinance itself, in the standards. But like I said, we did some research on other development plans that had been approved by this body, and the plants that are listed on this document are the plants that were approved with the other development plans.
Thank you. Anything else for staff? All right, somebody speak on behalf of the petitioner. Yes, sir. Restate your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Russ Posen, 1155 Troutline Road, Conklin, Indiana. I'm gonna give you some highlights of this project. If you could go to the site plan, which is C103, that we need to explain.
Just take you a little bit.
So that's fine. There you go. So this is lot 8, building I, which is in this corner here between North Centennial Drive and 45th. The building is 3 stories. The footprint is approximately 7,000 square feet each, so about 22,000 total square feet of building. The required parking for this site was calculated along with building M, which is lot 9 to the east there, because this is a shared parking agreement. The total parking between building I and building M required is 129 spaces. In the site plan that you see with the highlighted area, which is building I, that provides 23 new spaces. And then the total with building M is 171. So we have ample parking in this development that will get shared. The access, the main entrance to this site is on the east, where we have 88 spaces and parking. You can see some of the striping to the northeast, and then the sidewalk adjacent to the building. This is requirements that we adhered to when we did building M that we're carrying through here. So we have access all the way to the east Clay Hole Lake, where the path is, to get to the west through this site adjacent to the building, and then down south and then going west. You can see the dark area kind of on the south there, where that's a new sidewalk that connects to the west, where that's a nice little narrow spot for pedestrian safety, which we'll get into the other sidewalks and the other walkable paths of the buildings that already exist. The
the site utilities, you know, the majority of these we do provide. When we did building M, but we're connecting to the site here, so. I'll let Matt maybe get into the uses of this building a little bit more. But Rachel did, she did make a statement about the landscaping that, you know, we do meet the PUD requirements as far as quantity and general location, but yes, the material, the landscape plantings themselves are, yes, consistent with the rest of the site, but a little different than the PUD. I think it was a site development plan that is very simplistic, site. I think maybe talking about the building inside might be one or two, but that's it for the site.
Yeah, regarding the building use, it's gonna be an office, but professional office building. We currently have proposed arrangements with a medical user on the first floor and co-working space on the second and third floor, with an international co-working firm. So it's
Matt, what'd you say the third floor is what?
same as second floor, co-working space. So it's shared space, which is a current way to do offices for people that are working hybrid models. And so it's got a bit of an open staircase that wraps around the core of the elevator bank in the center of the entrance lobby. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward professional office space.
Thank you. Any questions for the petitioner?
I have a question, Matt.
Yes, sir.
Just the various pictures that are on here. This says signage of the same company on all three sides. I'm assuming they're gonna have tripod signs on all four sides. Where you're gonna be
Yeah,
putting
so we
signs.
haven't decided exactly what the signage rights are gonna be for each user or tenant.
Okay.
I don't believe we have the same sign on all four sides. Yeah.
Well, you have it on three. So I'm just looking at the pictures here and I'm just.
Yeah, the main entrance that faces east that you're seeing it on the screen currently, that would be the main entrance. That's gonna be the entrance to the co-working space. So you go up to the second and third floor from the main entrance. The primary entrance to the first floor is gonna be on the south side of the building.
Well, I'm just, what I'm saying is that you said there's gonna be multiple people in this building. I'm trying to visualize where you're gonna put the signage in for all the multiple people that are gonna be using it.
Yeah, so
This right now is showing it to me right now, just looks like it's a big physical therapy use building right now.
Yeah,
And you
so-
just mentioned there's gonna be multiple people in there, so I'm just trying to figure out where else are you gonna try to put.
And the current thinking is on the east, we have, like you see it here, I'm sorry, we would not have that particular sign on the east, so we have Regis, who is the right for the coast space user. It may be on the both the east and the west side, the north and the south side would be the other user.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have one, Mr. Anderson, on a PUD, is this signage included as a part of the original PUD agreement, or is that something that has to be taken on individually by building?
So the PUD establishes the land use regulations, within that PUD.
Signage included.
Signage included.
So if this building goes from shared office space on 2 floors to broken up into individual offices and they all want a sign, are they able to put up signs for all the individual tenants in there in the future?
It would be my interpretation, and I would have a conversation with my planner and my on-call planner as to whether the existing PUD regulations exist or it would be eligible for a variance.
And
My initial reaction would be it would be governed by the existing sign regulations because this is in the existing PUD.
Thank you.
Just to add to that, I believe that the sign package within the PUD design standard is slightly different in Centennial Village than this in the town. It's one step further, so I think we can have variances. We've had variances at Centennial Village, but it's similar but slightly different than the town's overall signage regulation.
Being prepared for something like that, Mr. Kimmel, in my experience, it's a lot easier to do it now than to do it later. as far as the additional signage and what's gonna happen when tenants wanna come in and want their name on the building and you don't have it, or in lieu of it being a shared space where everybody's at least 300 square feet, you want somebody that wants 3,000 and then wants that kind of a multi-tenant concept.
I'm
Okay.
able to pull up the sign ordinance, or I'm pulling up the PUD standards right now. There is a section 11, talks about signage. It does give some prohibited signage, and then some other standards, but it does kick it back to our zoning ordinance on specific sizes and materials and things like that. So it's a little bit of both. And I think if there's something that you're wanting to do that's outside of what the PUD standards say in that, and this might be a Mr. Wicklund question, if it's something that is in the PUD ordinance that needs to get changed, it might have to be a PUD amendment. But if it's something that's in the zoning ordinance that he would want a variance on, then it would be a variance through the BZA.
All about that.
I believe we had one, the med spa was the one, the only sign to come from us, I think, for a variance, right?
Yeah, I think at the moment that's correct, Roland, although I think Rose Bond is thinking about change, there's a very
LED
minor
signs.
issue with the lettering on the front of the canopy, and so I think they're, last time they're gonna come forward.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Matt, I assume obviously you're looking for a motion for approval.
It's a public hearing still.
I know. My question is, obviously, we're not going through the process with all the materials and like, review standard, because you kind of set the standard already with all the materials in the Centennial Village, land. My question is, this building here is gonna be all the same thing. It's not the thin set brick, it's all the same as Kataro and everything else, right?
Yes, it's all full with masonry up to the soffit or the cornice at the top, so it's pure with the wall. Yes, it's all
the same.
stone on the first level, just like the hotel we were talking about, same cast stone design and shape with the upper light. That is the hallmark of Centennial Village, it's the uniformity, the symmetry that I think really pulls the development together.
I agree.
With the same 3 color stones. This face work that's about right.
That's another nice looking building, Matt.
Any other questions for the petitioner before I open it up for public hearing? I'm going to open this now up to public hearing. If you'd like to speak on this particular project, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Going once? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Gary Warfel, Saxon Partners, 25 Recreation Park Drive, Hingham, Massachusetts, 02043. As a developer, and first of all, it's great to be back.
You missed us, don't you?
Nothing else you want to do tonight? You putting that in here?
No Tuesday night
Little
football.
side note, we are moving forward on our phase 1, buildings are coming down, residential properties are coming down today. So we're happy about that. I support this 100%. Great project. Matt's doing a fabulous job. I think overall, I just wanted to make a comment, if it's not out of line, on building O. Which, as developers, we try to, do the right thing, build community, add value, and create a sense of place. And building O checks all those boxes. And I have to tell you, I'm a little jealous. We work very closely with Hilton developers in our other 2 Northern Indiana projects, Fort Wayne and Mishawaka. And we would just love to have the tapestry at Chimera. We had some of those discussions. I'm glad it's coming to Munster. We should do everything we possibly can to support Matt in getting that flag to this town, because it's a game changer. First 4-star product in this area. The design is beautiful, complements the cast stone on the other buildings, reminiscent of the Waldorf Astoria downtown. Just a great project, and I believe it's a game changer for Munster. So whatever we can do to support Matt, we should do that.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak on this, even though we're not talking about building O? Going once, going twice, bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve, with the following, well, Rachel, you mentioned these conditions here. Did you say some of these are already met?
If you don't think that they're necessary, you can just keep them out and just approve as presented.
I second.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve it as presented. The second, Brian.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hopefully Mr. Kimmel keeps moving right along. Either no other discussion, Mr. Mendoza.
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
Mr. Rack,
Yes.
Counselor Nell,
Yes.
Dr. Corvoritis,
Yes.
Ms. Brannigan.
Yes.
We've got, Mr. Raffin.
That's it,
Yes, sorry.
You're missing me and I think yes.
Yes, and then President Baker.
Yes. All right, congratulations, moving right along. Next up is PC 23-016, Tenant Blank Construction LLC requesting approval of an amendment to the Franciscan Alliance land unit development to accommodate height restrictions on the existing hospital campus at 701 Superior Avenue. Ms. Christensen.
Yes. So we saw this last month at the preliminary hearing. I've added some more graphics into my staff report for this. Just to do a quick review. There were height restriction changes that were made by the Federal Aviation Administration. They used to allow the structures in this area to be up to 7 stories in height, and these regulations have now changed, and new structures are only allowed to reach 5 stories in height. Because of this change, the petitioner is reconfiguring the plan. You can see in the first graphic, that's part of my staff report, it is showing what is existing and what is currently approved. If we scroll down to the second graphic, this is what we are calling an interim plan that the petitioner is requesting. This is a little unusual for a PUD. However, you know, in meeting with the petitioner, and Jill and Dustin and I, we thought that this might be the best way to proceed with this because it does provide the town some safeguards as well as the petitioner. And then they also have in this, they're presenting their final site plan that they want to accomplish at the end of the day. So there are some differences between the 3 drawings. The intermediate and the proposed final site plan is what we are looking for approval tonight. So for example, some of the differences between the 2 plans, you can see on the west side of the property. On the final site plan, there is a parking lot underneath the helipad. And then south of that parking lot is a medical office building structure. However, the petitioner is not ready at this time to build the medical office building. They would like to use that as parking for now. However, they fully intend to build that medical office building. The other difference that you can see, so yes, this is the intermediate plan then showing how that parking lot would be where the future medical office building will be. This also ties into that there is a proposed parking structure that is in kind of the center of, yes, right where the arrow is. So on this one, we're showing surface parking, which is what the petitioner is requesting. And then if we can scroll down to this, the final proposed site plan, you can see that is the location where the parking structure would be located. However, the petitioner is not ready at this time to build the parking structure. So that is why we're kind of we guided them as staff to do an intermediate plan for approval. I think I would like to turn it over.
Here. We got 3 plans. We have the adopted plan with orange and pink. Then we have an intermediate plan with orange and pink. And then we have a final plan with orange and pink. And we have to make a recommendation to the council that orange and pink is good, or what are we doing?
We want to, what we would want to do, or what I would be requesting as staff that you do, is that we approve an intermediate and a final site plan with this planned unit development.
So stages, so they're gonna do the intermediate, and then that's gonna be stay in place, and then they're gonna do additional as it relates to the difference between the final and the intermediate.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome. And that, with that, I would say the petitioner has a presentation that they've prepared. And I think they'll go into more detail about the differences between the plan and what they're requesting. So I would ask that the board could pass that along to them to present at this time.
Okay, anything else that happens to the PUD as it relates to what's being requested?
No, this does, maybe before we, sorry, Jill, to make you switch back, if you could switch back to my staff report quickly. This is guided by our Munster character-based zoning code. There is a special section within our ordinance that does talk about the standards that we should be looking at for the PUD document or for the site. So I just want to make sure that we are clear that this is the guiding document that is referred to, because this one doesn't have a special booklet of standards like we do for Centennial Village. So it's a little bit different of a planned unit development than, what we've seen with Maple Leaf or with Centennial Village. So I just want to make sure the petitioner is clear that those are the standards that we will be reviewing as this moves forward. And then just so the Plan Commission is aware as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Back to me?
Back to
me?
you. Yes,
All
back
right,
to you.
thank you. All right, any questions for staff as it relates to this PC 23-016?
Mr. Chairman, Rachel, well, or maybe Tom Blaine can answer this. In the future, what are you looking, how many square feet are you looking to add to this campus?
I don't have the exact numbers, but it's roughly the same as what it is before, 650, 700,000 square feet.
So you add another 700,000 square feet there?
No, total, including what's there today.
Okay, do you know what's there today?
I
And
don't
I'm
know
just
exactly.
curious if someone
I
drives
don't
past
know
the
what to
facility
think
every
about.
day and all the new development. I like to know on a town's perspective, how we're looking at on traffic counts or traffic studies with this kind of addition to south part of town.
And what, is there a light going in? On 45th? It's part of this?
The light is shown on the PUD needed as needed, so.
All right, well, that's not for you yet. It's gonna be for the town, and when that's being requested, is that part of the PUD yet? And when is that even still in the mix?
There is a traffic signal included in the PUD, but much like the parking garage, it's not needed yet.
And that's determined by whom?
Mutual concurrence.
Okay.
Traffic engineers, I think they did a traffic study.
The traffic study was
Okay.
a while ago.
Thank you.
Yeah, so maybe,
All right,
maybe I could
hold
help.
on a
I
second,
was there
sir.
from the beginning.
Hold on, sir. All right, so is there any other questions for staff?
I just wanted to clarify the last question. So there was an original PUD with roughly the 750,000 square feet. But the FAA said you can't build it that high anymore, so it's kind of got squished down and spread out. But the newly proposed end stage square footage is roughly the same as the original.
That's accurate.
Okay. Anything else for staff? All right, for the petitioners, gentlemen, please state your name and address for the record and help us.
Tim Lentz, 1623 Greenwood Avenue, Michigan City, Senior Program Manager for Ton and Blank, representing Franciscan Health, and joined by John Gilmore, CEO of Ton and Blank.
Gentlemen, thank you. Yes, sir.
So let me go through, actually, I did put a presentation together to make it very simple. So
Is that this thing?
that is that, this will show it even better than that to pay the difference. But can you make it full screen with the little? The first slide just shows side by side what's approved today and what we're proposing. This is not including the interim state, but the final state, we'll get into the interim in a second. I just showed the biggest items here. So reducing number one, reduce building, 1 story. Number 2, we're adding a story to that building. Number 3, we're adding a central plant. And number 4, you can see we're relocating the helipad to accommodate that central plant that we're adding. Those are the major differences, with there's other details like
When we put the helipad up north, we want to realign that drive, and so that drive is a little bit wider, has some parking on it. That's really all of the major changes to this.
It?
That's it for this.
Okay.
So what I have here, this is the site as it is today. And I actually did make the colors make a little more sense on this, so hopefully that helps. And what I have is a list of things that have to happen on this site in order for this site to be, for the full PUD to be fulfilled. It's the same as it is today. So there's a PUD that's approved today. That's not what the site looks like today because that's a long-term plan, right? So this is the list of things that need to happen for the PUD in order for the PUD to be completely built out. And so if you want to go to the next slide, I'll show you the steps that we're showing. So as we progress, you can see this is the phase, the first phase. We've added parking. What Rachel mentioned is that there's a medical office building in place of where some of that parking is. But we're not inhibiting ourselves from developing that into a building. We're just using it as surface parking temporarily. And you can see we take three things off the list. The first phase would be the cancer center vertical expansion, hospital expansion, and a relocated helipad. We go to the next. Then when we build a medical office building on the west side of the site, it would require us then, the parking counts would be too high on the site. We can't accommodate the surface parking. At that point, we'd add the parking garage as shown in the PUD. So a couple other items off that list that lend us closer to that final PUD. Go to the next one. Finally, this one's not as obvious, but it's a small pink building that's shown there. That's another, that gets rid of the north MO, what we now kind of call the north MOB, and adds another patient tower there, which kind of finalizes that. Also gets rid of some of that parking. That's what on the PUD right now shows a drive there that would go away when we renovate that space and add a patient tower and add that drive. And then that takes us, the next one is just simply showing what we proposed. That takes us to what we proposed. This is the final view for the site.
I think it would have been easier if you would have presented it in like a 3D model form, showing it then. I mean, honestly, to see the elevations of the building, you know, instead of the site plan, looking, you know,
yeah,
it would have been helpful because obviously, I don't know if everyone's fully grasping what the parking structure and elevation all of them look like in relation to each other when we're looking at it.
Yeah,
plan, you know.
That's good.
There is no renderings?
Not for the PUD, no.
Well, this is the PUD, right?
Right.
Okay.
So we did renderings for development plan, which is a different item, but.
And then, Mr. Mendoza, or Ms. Christensen, or Mr. Anderson, so in PUDs, the buildings as they be added, as they are added, don't have to go through site plan review committee.
They do have to go through site plan review committee, from what I understand.
Yes, so all the buildings that get added as we move through along, they go site plan, go through the site plan review committee, okay?
Yes.
So those folks usually see renderings as it relates to that.
And you will.
Okay. But we're approving the changes to the PUD just to allow that to happen, not knowing what specifically is going to happen as it relates to buildings themselves.
You will have a chance to provide detailed comment on the buildings themselves.
Thank you.
But their expectation is they want to see this height and density of all these buildings. And then in the site plan review, if we come back to, no, we don't want a 4-story parking garage. We still have that as part of the jurisdiction of this committee.
I believe the parking garage is already approved.
I'll just put that on.
Right.
You don't even need to.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, like, if it was another variable that you could comment on, absolutely. These plantings aren't in our approved list. This is an ash tree, don't do that. Your lumens are all out of whack, it's gonna look terrible. Stuff like that, your drainage makes a puddle in the middle of the parking lot, it's gonna ice over, things like that, absolutely.
Mr. Lentz, maybe you could help me. What's the difference between a utility yard and the central utility plant? Because we've had some concerns in the past about the utility yard because there's compressed air tanks that are right there next to a highly truck traffic thoroughfare.
So the utility yard is what's there today. We will move some things out of that utility yard into the central utility plant. But the central utility plant houses different mechanical equipment than what's in the utility yard for the most part. As that utility yard, some of that equipment ages,
and we replace it. The plan is to replace it in their central utility plant.
As I'm sure you all know, since this isn't your first rodeo, it's unique over there because of the semi-truck traffic that is going up and down that thoroughfare every day. Thank you. Yes.
I have a question. Thank you. Looking at this, I just noticed, if I'm looking at the proposed PUD, it looks like there's that the wetland area has been reduced there along 45th, and that the stormwater maintenance that is in the current on the southwest corner, that it is removed in the proposed PUD.
Right, so that is a water quality management area is what it really is. So there's two things. The water quality management area still there still will be stormwater that comes through the south side of the site. We've talked about, when we've had a preliminary meeting, talking about how we manage the quality of that water through the south side of the site. And so we're on this, I think we've started that conversation already, and I don't think there's any issues with that. The north side is called an isolated wetland. It's just simply appealing to the state of Indiana, and they were able to get rid of that. There's no fees or anything actually, because it's an isolated wetland. So yes, you're right. We get rid of that wetland. The main wetland stays. And we use that also as a water quality management area. So
what the original one? I'm sorry, I didn't.
The one that her cursor's on becomes a water quality management area. It's just simply to give the water time to exit the site. So it won't be a water basin that's holding water. If you were to drive by, you wouldn't know there was any difference.
Okay, and then the stormwater maintenance on the south side, so that's gonna be like
That's still-
underground? Like
Yes.
Yeah.
All the hydrodynamic separator, and that helps that maintains the quality of the water before it leaves the site, but it goes underground so that it's not taking up surface area.
And this whole area is served by the regional detention basins, which are along the railroad tracks. This whole subdivision of the industrial park, all the stormwater goes to those basins.
Okay.
So that it'll continue to do so.
Built by the railroad tracks now.
I'm sorry?
Ones that are being built by the railroad tracks now.
They're being changed because NICTI's taking a little bit of land, and so they're building walls to support their train tracks. And then they'll be making sure that the volume hasn't changed. So there will be some changes to those ponds, but they've been there for a long time.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner? This being a public hearing?
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir. Doc.
Once this is all completed, I mean, this seems to make sense to me. The final layout of this, is there going to be a traffic light put in, Dustin?
No, not.
Once this whole area is completely filled.
Was the whole area is completely filled? If a traffic study and a traffic engineer determines that it's necessary, then yes.
So people that are leaving this facility going towards 35th, they're gonna try and jump over, turning left without a traffic light turn.
For this initial phase?
At the end, when this is completely finished.
No, there'll likely be a traffic signal.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're telling me it's not, we're not mandating that there be foot traffic, because traffic that will be put in.
Right now.
Now, I'm talking about once this is finally completed.
There will be a traffic.
There will be a signal.
I can't imagine a traffic engineer when there's 700,000 square feet of medical office, not determined.
Okay. Making sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Do we ever look at, the amount of traffic coming into this, office park now about maybe having a dedicated turn lane heading south, turning in here, not to tie up traffic going down Calumet Avenue? Is there any kind of discussions about?
I know when the original PUD was drafted, Garcia did a traffic study. I don't have that.
That was a long time ago. Things have changed. We also are building up Centennial Village and Maple Leaf Crossing and a lot of other things. So what they did in 2018 doesn't have to prove, right?
Sure. I mean, it's something that we could look at. Right. You drive that section of the road way more than I do. And anecdotally, do you feel like there needs to be a decel lane like there is on Hagberg or Columbia? I don't know, and I think it's probably wise to keep our eyes on it for sure. But there is the light there, and there is a continuous southbound lane, so it's a through right at a signalized intersection, there's a dedicated left. So traffic can continuously flow there when the light is green, but I mean, places are made to be changed. So if the circumstances dictate that that becomes necessary, then that would be something that we were going to do.
Right. I mean, like, it's not looking at, if you're looking at a hotel or anything else on Santana Village where it's going to get busy.
That's true.
I have one more question on this next phase of, since all of these verticals have been, required. How much square footage, or what's the next construction phase at the site? Is it all of everything through?
So the interim, the interim that we submitted is the next, so it'd be the hospital expansion, as well as the vertical expansion for the medical office building and then the central plant that serves it. As well as the parking that would be required to serve those areas. So
Those three.
Yeah, right here.
This,
So that pink, yep, you got it.
and then this.
And then the parking that's added to serve the additions.
Thank you. And construction usually comes in through the south or from the north? As far as your construction,
We would direct it all.
ingress, egress.
I would direct it all from the south.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, this being a public hearing, I'm going to open it up for a public hearing. Anybody like to speak on this? Please come to the podium, state your name and address to help. Once, going twice. Bring it back to the commission. Let's say
I got a question. I know you guys are kind of blank. How come there isn't anyone, and I wasn't here last week, from Franciscan here as a representative?
Well, because Ton and Blank is owned by Franciscan,
Okay.
so I'm in charge of all construction and design for Franciscan Alliance corporately, so I'm the corporate representative.
Okay. And you're able to speak obviously on behalf of Franciscan for any kind of.
Yes, sir.
Have a quick question out of curiosity. Just mentioned the hotel being added and we have hotels here and we always have a question like who stays in these hotels? The point was made earlier, it's not usually residents of the town. Just curious, as this site gets built out, what sort of traffic do you expect to be driven to hotels and other establishments in town? Anecdotally, I'm sure you don't have.
Anecdotally, certainly if someone has someone staying in the hospital and it's gonna be a regional medical center. So the plan for this, the ultimate build out, plan for Franciscan is we have a north, which is Munster, and a south, which is Crown Point. And you can see that consolidation happening in the news. So there'll be more and more people coming from out of town for specialty surgery and that sort of thing, which would drive to those hotels and drive the economy.
Those people will likely be hungry. Want to buy things.
Are there any plans for a Dyer facility?
There are no plans right now for the Dyer facility other than what it is now.
Staying open?
No, yes, sir.
Back to the commission. Let's go, folks. We got some more stuff to do.
I make a motion to recommend approval for the recommendation of the town council PC docket 23-016 to amend the Franciscan Health Plan unit development to accommodate a new site plan and intermediate site plan.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second. Any discussion? Either done, Mr. Mendoza.
Mr. Raffin,
Yes.
Counselor Mellon,
Yes.
Dr. Coloritis.
Yes.
Ms. Brannigan,
Yeah,
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
and Mr. Speck,
Yes.
and President Baker.
Yes. Thank you. Good luck. Good luck with the next one too, which is PC 23-023, kind of like requesting approval of the development plan for vertical expansion of the existing Franciscan Health Medical Office building at 701 Superior. Ms. Christensen, didn't we just talk about this project?
We kind of did.
Oh, and we're gonna do it again though. That's good.
We're gonna do it again. We've
All
got
right.
pretty pictures this time that you guys will like better, I think. So this is the expansion of the cancer center. This particular application, they are looking at doing a 3-story expansion on top of the existing 3-story structure. They have told us this is a development plan review. This is for the core and shell of that expansion only. The construction of the interior build out will come at a later date. Because this is just for the vertical expansion of the site, there's no changes in the existing site plan or anything. We are truly looking at an addition to the top of the building. However, we did ask that the petitioner provide us some parking calculations just to make sure that the proposed addition to the structure would be accommodated with the parking on the site. They did submit parking calculations with the petition that we just looked at, and everything appeared to be in order. So with my staff recommendation on this one, I was saying that I would recommend approval of this development plan that was contingent on approval by the town council of the PUD amendment too. I don't think that, the materials that they're using are the same materials that are on the existing structure. And I think it's a fairly simple request. And I think that's all I've got for you guys, unless you have any questions for me. And if not, it's back to you, Mr. Baker.
Thank you. Any questions for staff as it relates to this? What I heard is not gonna look like everything else. Is that what you heard, Mr. Rappin? How is that so?
Did I say it was not going to look like everything else?
Going to? Okay.
You're getting old, you're here.
There's a list. Thank you. Any other questions for staff? All right, yes, sir. Speak on behalf, you have to reintroduce yourself because this is government.
Tim Lentz, 16 Greenwood Avenue, Michigan City, Indiana, representative of Francis.
I have a question. So this is basically the
Excuse
first.
me a second, Mr. Speck. Is there something else you wanted to say before? Is there a presentation or you're going with the last one?
Well, I can talk a little bit more about it. It's a 3-story building today. We're making it a 6-story building. So it is very simple. We are not impacting the site with this development because we're only asking for core and shell at this time. And so you can see the appearance of the building is the same for the top 3 stories.
But the intermediate plan was adding 2 other structures. That's not part of what you're doing.
It's a separate development plan review for those other pieces.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions for the petitioner on this one? All right. Yes, sir.
Similar question, this time rather than people who are visiting patients. In your experience, the people who work in these expanded places, where do they tend to live? Do they like condos across the street? For example, maybe a reason to build it.
You doing a market survey?
I'm just wondering though, like honestly, from the resident perspective, how do we expect all this expansion might impact, where people want to live and what kind of employees are there? Anecdotally.
I don't necessarily have an answer for that.
So it's a medical office building, so, each floor is set up for about 12 doctors. So that'd be 36 doctors that would be coming to Munster with their staff.
And this is a cancer center?
We refer to it as a campus, and we're gonna change that name. It's a medical office building that's part of the campus. The first floor is cancer treatment.
Okay.
It's gonna be all different types of doctors.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all. Fine.
I just have, 1 or 2 questions for the petitioner. Can you explain, just because I don't think I saw a floor plan, but why are the windows different on the top 3 floors? Like, is the use different? They're longer, versus the ones on the lower.
Yeah, so a couple of reasons. We looked at continuing the windows up and building that very busy. And so this made the building look, it lent itself well to the site. Also, we're tying it in. So we will be doing a separate development plan review for the hospital expansion. And they'll see these 2 will tie together and the windows is one will be tied those together. So
I'm also noticing like a change in the brick pattern along the,
The same idea. There is a little pattern with a still brick between the windows. And that ties it to the hospital expansion. So that same pattern to provide a little bit of variety. So it doesn't look so busy and so bland going up.
so we may see that, I'm not super familiar with the current site, but, we may see that brick pattern, you know, like on a ground level too, to kind of tie it in.
On the hospital expansion, yeah, you can see it on the ground.
Thank you.
If you haven't designed it, but can you talk about how this will look compared relative to the 6-story parking facility when that comes up?
We have not designed a parking facility, so. I mean, I know that we will design a attractive parking facility that matches the campus and that will match the finishes of this. I'm positive of that. We want to be attractive, so I can speak to that, but.
Is there a plan, looks like there's maybe a plan for a walkway from top level of the garage to some of the hospital buildings?
That would be the plan.
Sorry?
Ideally. Yeah, that would be the plan. Ideally, you have a walkway from the garage.
Is that it, Councilman? Anybody else? All right, this is a public hearing, so if anybody would like to speak on this aspect, please come to the podium and state your name and address. Going once, going twice. Bring it back to the commission as it relates to this PC 23-023. What say you?
No way for docket PC docket number 23-023, a development plan for vertical expansion of the existing 3-story medical office building, making it a total of 6 stories with the following conditions. One, that the PC 23-116, a PUD amendment to the skin, PUD is approved by the town council.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second. Any discussion? Either or none. Mr. Mendoza.
Council Tulowitzki,
Yes.
Mr. Speck,
Yes.
Mr. Rathman,
Yes.
Councilor Mellon,
Yes.
Ms. Brannigan.
Yeah.
Dr. Kulturitis.
Yes.
and President Baker.
Yes. Congratulations, folks. We're looking forward to this. See you again soon, it sounds like.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along. Next up is findings of fact. Mr. Wickman, we have to do both of these separately, correct? Makes it easier.
Thanks.
All right, finding of fact, first one is PC 23-018 J. Leeser, Maple Leaf Crossing LLC, requesting approval of development plan at 9470 Calumet Avenue, Lot 5, within Maple Leaf Crossing Plan Unit Development.
Make a motion to approve PC docket number PC 23-018, finding of fact.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second, any discussion? Anything to add from staff? Either or not, Mr. Mendoza.
Councilor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
Mr. Rathman,
Yes.
Councilor Mellon,
Yes.
Ms. Brannigan.
Yeah.
Dr. Kulturitis.
Yes.
Mr. Speck
Yes.
and President Baker.
Yes. Moving right along, PC 23-019 J. Leeser, Maple Leaf Crossing LLC, requesting approval of development plan of 9460 Calumet Avenue, which is lot 6 within Maple Leaf Crossing Plan Unit Development.
Make a motion to approve docket number
There's a
PC.
motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
No.
Either or none, Mr. Mendoza.
Councilor Tulowitzki.
Yes.
Councilor Mellon,
Yes.
Dr. Kulturitis.
Yeah.
Ms. Brannigan.
Yes.
Ms. Rathman.
Yes.
Mr. Speck
Yes.
and President Baker.
Yes. Thank you. Moving right along, other business additional items, PC 23-020, I'm sorry. Matt Kimmel, Centennial Village LLC, requesting approval of a final plat for Lot A to create 2 individual lots for building M and I in Centennial Village Plan Unit Development. This is kind of interesting, Ms. Christensen. What's happening?
This was one that we looked at, I believe, last month. Staff has reviewed it and we made sure that it was meeting all the conditions that you guys had on the preliminary plat. So my recommendation is to approve the final plat as presented. And back to you, Mr. Baker.
For Ms. Christensen on this one,
What's the question?
is this M and I, was this lot 8 and 9? Is M and I mean,
Yes.
okay, so is this making it M and I, or is it making the M and I the buildings that are gonna be on lot 8 and 9?
This is the plat that plats, lots 8 and 9. This is the final plat. You guys saw the preliminary plat before. Now we do the final, we sign it, we're all, record it, we're all good.
And what changed from preliminary to final after our last discussion on the subject matter?
We asked the petitioner to include a parking access agreement between lots 8 and 9, so that, do you remember that stair step that I didn't really like? And I was trying to get them to split it so that the parking made more sense from a maintenance perspective. However, we did talk as a plan commission, and we came up with a suggestion that we would have the access agreement so that there's that shared parking between the two lots. And that was sufficient, and that's how you guys approved it. So that is what they've done. They've written it into on the side of it. I think on the left-hand side, there is a section that talks about cross parking agreement or cross parking easement that satisfies what you guys had discussed at the preliminary meeting for this, or the preliminary drawing.
Would that be a separate recorded document if they sell lot 8 and there's a different owner for lot 9? Is that going to be a separate recorded document, or is that going to be something that's embedded in the PUD, multiple changes?
In the plat.
This is embedded in the plat. So it stays with the plat.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Rachel, we talked about this before with the rest of the subdivision. This should be incorporated in the whole subdivision, because the parking only works if it's together as a holistic approach. So
Right.
if it starts getting split off in different owners, and different things, we're gonna have a big parking problem at this place. It's
Yeah.
not saying I'm towing my car for parking at Guitarro, but I'm walking to Rosebud, you know?
I think just as you guys are doing subdivisions in the future on this site, just be mindful of that and make sure that we're doing a parking easement on any future sites that get subdivided.
Yeah, I'm curious if that's potentially in scope for PUD amendments in relation to new development agreement that's being put forward, maybe.
Or introduce it as one of the 1,000 meetings you're having with this particular development, as it pertains to that continue to add on to have some consistency, because in 10 years, there's going to be 8 different owners. For sure. For sure.
Yeah, we need to incorporate that. We can start to bring the hotel in. It needs to be all in it now.
Yeah.
And it's great that it's in here now, so.
Is this good to go then?
Yes.
Yes.
Good to go.
Is there anything,
So
would
with
you like, sorry, sir, would you like to say anything on this?
I do not.
All right,
I make a motion to approve PC docket 23-020, a final plat for the replat of lot A to create 2 lots, lot 8 and 9 in the Centennial Village planned unit development.
there's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
And a second, any discussion? Either none, Mr. Mendoza, one more time, you should have this down memorized.
Well, you put them in different order every time.
I'm wondering when it's my turn.
Mr. Speck,
Yes.
Mr. Rathlin,
Yes.
Councilor Nolan,
Yes.
Dr. Corporation.
Yes.
Ms. Brannigan.
Yes.
We got then, Councilor Tulowitzki.
Yes.
And Mr. Speck, and then, I'll hear the paper.
Yes, that's outstanding. Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. Next up is the next regular scheduled meeting, which is October 10th, 2023. I know Mr. Speck has a lot of things he wants to talk about, but I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Mendoza, I've been warned by my legal counsel for the commission that we have to do a roll call.
Yeah.
Even on an adjournment.
Kids, you can leave. We will tell your teachers you were here the whole time. I
Yes, you
promise.
are. All right, just reading it.
So we'll do that, okay. Obviously, the order that. Councilor Tulowitzki.
Yes.
Mr. Speck.
Yeah.
Mr. Rathlin,
Yes.
Councilor Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Corporation.
Yes.
Ms. Brannigan.
Yes.
And President Baker.
Yes, thank you very much for making Munster a better place to live. See you next month.
Bye, Rachel.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your help, Rachel. Come drive up and see us sometime.
I definitely will.